Many of this year's gadgets helped consumers accomplish more with less, whether on the go or at home. Others were just plain fun. We'll take a look at some of the best in the 2012 Gadget Review. This year, Apple saw its dominance threatened on mobile fronts, smartphone and tablet. In the categories, Apple introduced 3 devices this year, 2 iPads and an iPhone. All 3 created the typical long lines outside stores around the world, but left some disappointed. Not because they couldn't buy the gadgets, but because those who bought the iPad 2 earlier in the year were left with an inferior and out-of-date device just a few months later with the iPad mini. It was the first time that the company debuted 2 tablets in a single year. While its success is still a question, Microsoft mounted the most aggressive campaign against Apple of any tablet manufacturer. Microsoft debuted its Surface tablet, which it has designed and built on its own, and which also runs a new flavor of Windows called Windows RT. The ARM-based operating system means that consumers won't be able to use their old software, rather they'll need to buy new software from the Windows Store. IDC analyst Bob O'Donnell doesn't think that Windows RT has much of a chance. Microsoft's share of the total OS market has dropped significantly, from 42% in the beginning of 2011 to just 28% at the end of 2012. The phone front became a 3-way race with the addition of Windows Phone 8 to the already competitive Android iOS landscape. Microsoft, though, has nowhere to go but up. It's got about 2% of the smartphone market now, and IDC predicts it will have more than 10% by 2016. For the first time, Samsung overtook Apple with the most smart connected devices shipped in the second quarter. Samsung now ships about 50% of all Android mobile devices, and it's been reported that Samsung wants to rely less on Google and develop and promote its own operating system called Tizen. But just because Microsoft, Android, and iOS seem to be the big players in the market, didn't mean there were some more obscure mobile gadgets in 2012. Samsung again tried to sell a smartphone with an integrated projector. Called the Galaxy Beam, it can project a 50-inch image. While it can shoot HD video, it can only project 1/9 that resolution. Capitalizing on the nuclear disaster in Japan, SoftBank added a radiation detector to one of its Pantone line of phones. It takes about 10 seconds to take a reading, which it then geotags. The phone uses a special chip to detect estimated gamma radiation. And then there's this phone from Kyocera, which uses tiny vibrations in the screen in place of a traditional ear speaker. The vibrations produced by the phone are picked up by the ear physically, meaning it is clear in noisy environments. The company demonstrated this by using a speaker that blasted out construction and other background noise. Conversation is still clearly audible above the noise, and the phone is already on sale in Japan. This year, we saw more connected cars, with automobiles becoming gadgets themselves. It's been a trend we've seen over the last decade as car features integrate with driver smartphones as portals to the web, and as cars become more web-connected themselves. That was the case with a special Chevy Volt that had a Verizon 4G connection and 3 tablets inside. For example, the driver could turn on the lights at home or open the garage door. Front seat passengers can also send movies to the tablets mounted in the headrests for backseat passengers. While the connected Volt is just a research project, General Motors, which owns Chevrolet, has outfitted its newest Cadillacs with Q, or Cadillac User Experience. The center of Q is an 8-inch touch panel at the top of the center column that controls most of the main entertainment functions. A nice feature are the shortcuts along the bottom, which can be mixed between different modes like radio, phone, and navigation. There are 2 main displays, a digital instrument cluster, which is customizable through 4 main designs, and a heads-up display that projects navigation directions into the bottom of the driver's field of view. You may have never thought of a car as an accessory to your phone, but that's the idea behind a Toyota concept car called the Smart Insect. The high-tech begins when the owner approaches. An image sensor on the roof is supposed to recognize its owner, welcome them, and open the doors. In the center of the dashboard is a large LCD that shows navigation information and other communications from Toyota's online service, such as traffic information. When on the road, the car can communicate with its driver's smart home, checking, for example, whether the front door is locked or the settings of the air conditioner. High-tech gadgets were aimed at both big and little kids in 2012. Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo all had major announcements and product debuts. Microsoft showed off its Smart Glass system, which connects Xbox units, smartphones, tablets, and PCs to provide a multi-screen experience for users. The strategy of making a game console more than just a gaming device is consistent across the big 3. Sony made a play with its augmented reality Wonderbook, where gamers can use a Move controller to interact with game content. Later in the year, Nintendo launched the Wii U. The gamepad allows for what Nintendo calls asymmetric gaming, where what's displayed on the small handheld screen is different from the large main display. The console sold out in its first weekend on sale, but IDC predicts that even with the new console, Nintendo will be third behind Microsoft and Sony this holiday season. The pressure will stay on in 2013 as Microsoft and Sony are rumored to debut their next-generation consoles. And that's our 2012 Gadget Review. Be sure to check out our other year-end videos. In Boston, Nick Barber, IDG News Service.